top 7 questions that home buyers have before buying a house, or that they should have. So I'm going to address these in detail. Also, I'm going to tell you how you could potentially save. So if you're buying a house, generally you're going to have a down payment. Well, down payment could be $5,000 on up. Well, I'm going to show you how you could potentially come in with 0 down payment. That'll be in the video. Another thing, closing costs. Closing costs can be several $1,000s. On average, $5,500 on up, over $10,000. Well, I'm going to also include in this video ways on how we could reduce it, or maybe even eliminate you having to come up with your own closing costs. All right, that'll be in the video as well. All right, are you guys ready? Again, I'm Rodney Dixon, your Tulsa, Oklahoma real estate agent. I can't wait to go over this information. You're going to get so much information here. Get a notepad, get a pen and paper, whatever you want to write on, and get you a drink. All right, let's do it. Hey, and real quick, go ahead and click the subscribe button and that like button and that bell notification button. That way you'll be able to stay in touch with me. So if you're buying or selling a home in the near future, or you know someone that is, it's easy for you to just be able to share this video. All right, we're going to go over the top 7 questions home buyers have, or that they should have, before buying a home. And number 1, what is my first step? What do I even do? Well, first we need to meet, and we need to have what's called a buyer consultation. What that is I break it down from A to Z for you guys. And I go over all the critical and important steps that you're going to want to know about, so we can make your transition as smooth as possible on finding a house and answer any questions that you're going to have. So as I go over this consultation, these questions are going to pop up. You're going to ask those questions, and the questions you don't ask, well, I've done this so many times, I'm going to know exactly what to tell you to kind of help guide you. And just figure the buyer consultation is going to take about 30 minutes to an hour. But you know, we're very relaxed. We'll get drinks. We'll just kind of chill out. You can take notes. All right, number 2. What's the best loan for you? Well, that's a good question, right? So we want to get you with a quality loan officer and lender that has a proven track record for this area. What they'll do is they'll do what's called a debt to income ratio. They'll pull your credit, they'll take your income, they'll factor all these in together, and they'll say, okay, here's the price of a home that you can potentially qualify for. So stay under that price. What's great about getting with a good reputable loan officer is they're going to give you options. So you're going to have a lot of options. There's different loans as well. And depending on where your credit falls, some may be best depending on how much money you want to put down. So those are important questions, right? Number 3, can you show me houses that are listed with other companies? Absolutely. And that's important because we don't want to just limit you to our listings that we have with our company. Now, our company's huge, so we're going to have a huge portion of those listings out there. But I don't want to limit you. So by you hiring me as your agent, I'm going to be able to show you any property that you would like to see and help you throughout the entire process. So I want you to have access to every single property that falls in your criteria that you're going to be interested in. That way you can make a decision which is best for you, right? That's important. Number 4, how much money do I need to be able to buy a house? Okay, so that's a great question. So how much money do you need? Well, it's really going to hinge on a lot of things. Depending on your credit and how much money you have can open up other options for you that may be the best way to go for you. But if you have very limited income, but you have enough to get into a house, well, there's loans like FHA loans that only require 3.5% down. First-time home buyer programs out there as well, where you could potentially come in if you don't make too much money and qualify for one of those loans where you have 0 down payment. That helps a lot of buyers out. Then you've got closing costs. Just simple rule of thumb, your closing costs on a $100,000 house just figure is going to be about $5,500. $200,000 house, $7,500 to $8,500. $300,000 house, it could be $10,000 to $12,000. So you'll want to get with a quality loan officer. They will be able to tell you what those closing costs are going to be. So just a ballpark figure, a $250,000 house, your down payment is going to be on average 3.5% to 5% down on a minimum. So that's going to be $8,750 to about $12,500. And then your closing costs, let's just go with the ballpark figure on that too. On average, figure about $9,000. Your lender will be much more specific. So minimum, just figure around $18,000 to about $22,000 to be able to buy a house at $250,000. Now, if you qualify for a first-time home buyer program, you don't have to come up with your down payment. That could save you $8,750. Now, let's answer question number 5. What is closing costs and can the seller pay it? Let's get a drink. God, that coffee's incredible. Okay, your closing costs. Include the cost to be able to get the loan, all the other costs involved, including title company charges, prorated taxes for the property, prorated homeowner's insurance for the property to close on this property. So what is hazard insurance? What's homeowner's insurance? Well, it's the same thing. Hazard insurance is like car insurance, but it's for a house. That's part of your monthly payment. Also, your property taxes, they're going to want to have so many months of that. And at closing, that will be put in what's called an escrow account, which the lender manages. And that way, at the end of the year, when you have to pay property taxes, it just comes out. So it's not like you have to come up with several $1,000s at one time when it's that time to pay your property taxes every year. By having this included with your monthly payment, and same with your hazard insurance, that's paid once a year. So a side note, homeowner's insurance does not cover if your dishwasher breaks down just because it's old, if your refrigerator quits working, your air conditioner quits working just because it's aging. It doesn't cover any of that. So it's not really going to cover that stuff. It only covers like a storm rips off your roof or a portion of your roof or causes major water damage or a pipe bust in your house causing major water damage. Other things like that. And that's hazard insurance. Keep in mind, there's some mortgage calculators you're going to run into. They don't give you the taxes, they don't include that, and they don't include the property insurance. So it's not going to be very accurate. You're going to think, well, this company is a lot less than this other company over here. You have to drill it down on exactly what you're looking at. And this is why a great loan officer and a great real estate agent is so critical to have during this entire process. We'll be there by your side to walk you through every step of the way to answer all your questions and to make sure you're seeing the picture clearly. Do you see why it's so important we factor in taxes and insurance with your principal and interest loan so that we can come up with a total monthly payment? That way you can budget with accuracy. So the second part to question number 5 is, can the seller pay my closing costs? We can always ask the seller to pay your closing costs. Always remember, when we ask the seller to pay closing costs and we give them a full price offer, we need to factor in that, will you pay $9,000, Mr. Seller, of my closing costs? Well, you're not offering the seller $250,000, which would be a full price. You're really offering them $241,000 because of that closing cost that they're paying on your behalf. So keep that in perspective. If you qualify for the zero down loan program, and then if you get the seller to pay your closing costs, well, technically you're walking in pretty much with zero money. It's important you have to pay for the appraisal in advance, and that's about $550 to $650, and any inspections you generally have to pay in advance. And we'll talk about that more here in a minute. But there's also earnest money you're going to want to factor in, and we'll talk about that as well in a minute. So basically, there's a chance you could buy a house with very little money down. Now, obviously, there's nothing that says the seller has to pay your closing costs. And depending on the home, some buyers have opted to offer the seller above asking price by the amount of their closing costs. What that means is they're asking the seller to pay. So instead of $250,000, buyers are asking the seller to pay the additional amount that covers their closing costs too. So in this case, $258,750. If the seller will pay $8,750 of your closing costs, some sellers have agreed to do that. Now, the seller and their agent also knows there's a chance appraisers may not appraise it for that high. If the seller is already at the top of the market because of the quality and condition of their home, so we need to do our best at looking to see if it's a possibility that an appraiser could potentially comp that property. That comping is just a fancy way of saying, let's see if other properties have sold that can support the price that the seller is asking for, plus our extra $8,750 on top of that, because it has to appraise out at that additional price. So what happens If the seller agrees to the higher price and the appraiser comes out a few weeks later, he appraises it for less money. Well, if we can't renegotiate with the seller at that point, or you can't come up with the additional money to make up the difference, then the contract potentially becomes what's called null and void. So depending on how the contract was written and what forms you used and the timing of that, potentially you could get your earnest money back. Do you see why we do a buyer consultation? This is a lot of information and very, very important to know. So if you're not getting cold feet, please continue watching. Real quick, if you're getting value out of this video, would you do me a favor? Would you share this video? Click that like button, hit that subscribe button and that bell notification. You'll be notified of other videos I do. I do tons of videos about Tulsa and the surrounding communities and suburbs, new construction tours, what is there fun to do in and around Tulsa. Check out my channel. I've got lots of videos you would enjoy. Let's move on. Question number 6. Who pays for home inspections? All right, let's get another drink. God, that coffee is so good. I need to do a video about coffee. This is delicious. All right, question number 6. Who pays for home inspections and what does that even look like or cost? Okay, so there's several different types of home inspectors out there. The most common ones, structural engineers, general home inspection, termite inspections. Now there are others you can get as well. You can get inspections where they take cameras and look down your floor vents or drain lines. You can get roof inspections. You can get electrical, mechanical, plumbing inspections individually. You can get all kinds of inspections, even mold inspections. You get to pick because you're the one that pays for the inspections. The way the contract's written, you can do any inspection you want within this allotted time frame. Now, if it's a VA loan, then a lot of times the seller will provide the termite inspection. Just figure termite inspections run about $90 to $120. General home inspections run $375 to $675. It really just depends on the house size and what company you're using. If there's a septic system, you're going to want to get a septic inspection. That runs about $150 to $250. If your property has obvious cracking, you're going to want to consider getting a structural engineer to look at it. That inspection runs about $375. On the other items, we generally don't see a lot of those being done, but that is your option that you can do depending on how much money you want to spend and what inspections you feel is important for you. Also, home inspections. Generally, you're going to have to pay that up front at the time of the inspection, so you need to know that. So is it mandatory that you have all of these inspections done? The quick answer is no, but it's highly recommended. Now, if an appraiser goes out there to appraise the property, he's going to walk around, do measurements. If he notices obvious signs and he makes notes of some things that he's seen, then the lender, when they review the appraisal, they may make requirements. If someone took the appliances out of the property, your lender can make requirements that those appliances are replaced prior to closing. So you just need to know that. But this is why we do a buyer consultation. On average, just figure you're going to spend about $575 to $750 for home inspections. General home inspection and termite inspections. And general home inspection, just side note, that usually covers from the roof all the way down. And if they notice other things, they can tell you, hey, we probably should get someone else in to inspect as well. So just FYI. So these are basically the common ones that most buyers do. Okay, number 7, what is earnest money? Okay, earnest money is, just look at it as good faith money. Hey, I want to buy your house and I'm going to take it off the market. So when I tie it up under contract with you, now the seller can't sell the house to someone else. And if he tried to, well, he would be in breach of contract if they tried to do that. So by putting money down, it's kind of like a guarantee. If I walk away as a buyer, you potentially can keep this money that I put down. That's earnest money. The more earnest money you have down, the better your offer looks. Typically, down payment on earnest money, just figure about $1,000. $250,000 house, figure about $2,500 would be a decent earnest money. But if you're in competition with other buyers, you may want to bump that earnest money up to $5,000 or even higher, just to show how solid of a buyer you are. Now, if they choose your offer, that's a whole thing for another video because there's so many other things we can do to put you in first place if you're in a multi-offer situation. What you need to know is the earnest money you put down up front with your offer or within a couple of days of you presenting your offer, well, that earnest money will be deposited into an escrow account and held there until closing. That is your money as long as you fulfill the terms of the contract And that closing money, generally at closing, goes towards the money you need to close on the property. So if you have to have $20,000 and you put $2,000 down, well, now you only need $18,000 at the closing table, just to give you an example. Okay, so do you see why it's so important that you have a real estate agent walking you through these steps? This is why it's so important that we do a buyer consultation, so you know exactly what to expect and what steps to take and what questions you should be asking, right? So if you're thinking about buying or selling a home, I'm going to make this as smooth as possible for you. If you know anyone else thinking about buying or selling a home, definitely share my information with them. And I appreciate you guys, and I appreciate the support so much. I hope this video was of value to you. If it was, and you haven't already, click that like button. It just says, Rodney, you're doing a great job. Feel free to hit that subscribe button and click that bell notification button. That was good stuff, right? A lot of information. All right, if you have any other questions, ask down in the comments below. Until we can talk in person or meet in person, have a blessed day. And just always remember, I've got your back when you're moving to Tulsa, Oklahoma.